Welcome to another of my Doctor Who 20th anniversary specials, as we are now taking into the world of Matt Smith's reign as the 11th Doctor, as we're going to kick off his runs of Doctor Who by looking back at the fifth series of Doctor Who, Revival Who, which basically shook up the logo for the show, as well as a different approach of how Doctor Who's storytelling was invented, because of course Stephen Moffat is finally now the showrunner, replacing Russell T Davies, who left the show at the end of time the following Christmas, which led to just a few months after that would lead to the birth of Stephen Moffat's reign as the showrunner and the introduction of Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor, who obviously came out of that regeneration during the end of time in New Year 2010. Obviously, Matt Smith finally taking the reins as the 11th Doctor, being the first New Who Doctor since obviously following David Tennant's successful reign as the 10th Doctor. So obviously he had big shoes to fill. So obviously what episodes did I enjoy? I have to obviously start things off with the 11th hour. I think the 11th hour, so it definitely felt like it was written by Russell T Davies. The way that writ the story, like it almost kind of felt like had some influence from, essentially, like I say, he kind of had influence from Russell T Davies most writing this script, and Russell kind of said, okay, this is how, I think Russell kind of helped him a little bit to write a perfect script for Matt Smith that would kick off the new era, well, essentially a new look to Doctor Who, and a new sort of a new way for Doctor Who, because obviously this is the first series after the success of David Tennant, so obviously things are going to be different for Doctor Who. So for Matt Smith, he had to have a strong start, and I love that the 11th hour, it introduced us to his new companion, Amy Pond, as well as her so-called boyfriend, Rory Williams. Luckily became her boyfriend later in the series. But yeah, so Amy and Rory obviously being introduced in here, and the whole plot line about the Pandorica opening became the Kickstarter for that series for Matt Smith's first year as the 11th Doctor, which was really great. So the 11th hour, really beautifully well done, and introducing us to Matt Smith's storytelling. And then, of course, another episode I enjoyed as a dinner. I actually kind of enjoyed the Weeping Angels two-parter, Time of Angels, Flesh and Stone. I thought it was a really nice two-parter that they got going on for Matt Smith. I think this two-parter was actually well received in terms of how they handled the first ever two-part of Weeping Angels story. The fact that this was the first time we saw a two-parter about them, and also River Song is a part of it, because yes, River Song finally became a regular as part of the Matt Smith run of Doctor Who, becoming heavily involved in some important stories, beats in his run as the Doctor. So it finally gave River Song a purpose to serve, which was and obviously kind of showed us the younger River Song before she entered the library, and kind of introduces us to the younger River Song that we would eventually meet as we progressed it through Matt Smith's time, early times as the 11th Doctor. So kind of progressing that relationship between the Doctor and River, which was kind of being developed along the way. So yeah, and obviously this is obviously what led to obviously the whole Amy having an image of an angel in her head and nearly dying from that. The fact that the Doctor had to find a way to prevent that, and obviously the cracks in the wall were also being present all over the series, and it was present here as well in the two-parter. So that was really clever. Story beats being developed that was leading to that Pandorica were being introduced through this story as well. Very interesting was Amy's choice, where Amy was left with a choice of either being in the real world, being in the world with the Doctor, and choosing which one's real, being attacked by those people with the flower in their mouths, or basically, or with also Rory dying, or being in a world where Rory exists. That was an interesting, and also the fact that you had the Dream Lord be a part of that story, which basically was the beginnings of the Valeyard development as the TARDIS was split into two, with the Doctor, basically two different versions of the Doctors, of the Doctor being the good Doctor and the bad Doctor, obviously the bad Doctor leading into the Valeyard character that we saw Colin Baker's reign of Doctor Who. So this was the beginning of that sort of storyline that was building up that through Amy's Choice. And then you've also had another story I thought was really, really fun, The Lodger. I know The Lodger doesn't really get praised as much, but I really love it because of James Corden and the chemistry that he and Matt Smith had. I love the banters that these two have when they kept hitting themselves in the head. The Doctor hits him in the head to make him remember who he is. It's just really hilarious seeing those two doing a comedy scene together. Most trying to be serious, which was it's just a lot of fun, really. Lodger, seeing the Doctor being a human for once, which is most living like a human being, which is kind of fun to see. Yeah, it's really fun to see that. I really enjoy the funniness of the Lodger, and seeing James Corden, because of my love for Gavin and Stacey, seeing him involved in Doctor Who was so much fun. And then I really enjoyed the Pandorica Open. I thought the Pandorica Opens part of the story was really good. Like, they built it up like it was going to be like a big serious event, and it was beautifully put together and executed. And then Big Bang kind of ruined the two-parter by making it very complicated, and that's the part I didn't like about the Big Bang, the fact that they made it so complicated to the point that they built us up thinking this was the end of the Doctor, and yet he managed to teleport in front of Rory. He was able to get the screwdriver from. How did that happen in the first place? They didn't really explain it properly, so it was very confusing. The confusing nature of the Big Bang was very confusing, and that's why I just like it. And it was only purpose was to reboot the universe, and that's about it. So that kind of sucks. That's all that basically did, really. But there you go. That's the only thing I hate about the Big Bang part of the Pandorica storyline. I wish they could have done it a bit better than the confusing nature of it. It's just so confusing, and it just confused the hell out of a lot of us, in my opinion, and I wish they didn't do that. Anyway, so that was pretty much the stories I enjoyed about the about Series 5. I know some people enjoyed the vampire stories, some enjoyed the Dalek story, which I wasn't really that crazy about, but it was okay, especially with the weird Teletubby Daleks, which they were basically Teletubby Daleks. Like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend they're not Teletubby Daleks. They were basically Teletubby Daleks from day one. Essentially, those Daleks were ridiculous. They were the most ridiculous Dalek design I've ever seen. And it was so baffling that they had to go back to the previous Dalek design because, well, the golden Dalek design, because, well, that Dalek design is more iconic than the one they were trying to do in 2010. So they really messed it up. So bad to the point that they had to get rid of those bigger Daleks because those Dalek designs was just not interesting to anyone. So anyway, that's all I've got to basically. Yeah, either way, they were my favorite parts of the story. I would love to hear what your favorite part of the story of Series 5 is in the comment section below. What did you enjoy about this series? I thought there was some good part. I mean, they were my favorite parts of the story. Some good beats that I really enjoyed about Series 5, obviously, because Series 5 was a really well produced series, in my opinion. They did a really good job with it, and I love what they did. That's my thoughts on Series 5. Leave me yours in the comment section below, and tune in to next week as we look back at Matt Smith's second series that was split into two parts, Series 6, which was the two-part series covering essentially the sort of reveal of the identity of River Song and the so-called death of the Doctor with the astronaut. Or did he die from the astronaut? We'll explore that. Yeah, that was essentially a plot line in Series 6. Leave that to your thinking process, really. But either way, thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next special. See you then.